So I feel like I'm really switching gears a little bit. First, I want to thank everybody for coming. I think Justin mentioned been at Next Jump for 15 years, so I'm going to give you, he mentioned I'm a mentor in the Founders Institute program. I do spend a lot of time mentoring entrepreneurs in New York City, but also through other programs. And I find that instead of lecturing, actually sharing more of my stories could actually be more helpful and potentially more inspiring. So I'm going to share my story, my sort of 15-year experience of being an entrepreneur and kind of what happened when I first started and kind of where I am now in my whole 15-year journey here. Starting with a picture from a offsite in 1999, so about 14 years ago. That's me in the red circle, wearing my really cool fanny pack something. I'm not sure what I'm wearing, but 14 years ago, I was 22 years old. I started in the summer of 98 as a local sales intern, selling door-to-door, and then I came back full-time in 99 to really get going in the business. And I was lucky to be part of this offsite, but we look happy, we're really excited here, and the bottom line is, it was like the height of the dot-com boom, right, 98, 99. Some people probably weren't even in high school at that point, but we were having fun and we loved it. But the reality was the crash was just a few years away. Right after 9/11, our business took a real hit, and I think it was in January of 2002. We at the height we were 150 employees. We went down to 70 to 60 to 40 to 20, and eventually in January of 2002 we went down to four of us. It was Charlie, our CEO still, myself, Tom Fuller, who's our head of engineering, and there was one other sort of junior person like myself. I was 24, I think he was 23. So sort of two kind of junior people also in the company. And so I'm going to tell you the story of what happens here. The full story is the fortune, the hard work, and then I'm going to talk to you about kind of true wealth and what that means to me. Okay, so fortune. This is a huge lesson I learned, and you're going to see there's a check here with my maiden name on it, Meghan Lombardi. So I'm going to tell you the story of this $1,000 check. But the lesson I learned here is that there's a huge difference between luck and actually fortune. Luck, dumb luck, is like winning the lottery, and that's great for some people. But waiting for that, not so good. Fortune, you actually have something to do with it. And in hindsight, I realized that the day when this check was offered to me is the day I became an entrepreneur. I went from being an employee to an entrepreneur. The story goes like this. Charlie brought myself and this other junior person into his office. We had basically run out of money. And he said to me, I remember so clearly, he was sitting at his desk and he said, we've run out of money. We don't have money to pay you, so I'm going to write you a check out of my checkbook, my personal checkbook. It's the best I can do right now to help you. It's $1,000. And he handed it to me, and I remember I got a split second to think about it, and I was like, I'm not going to take your money. This is especially for somebody who think about running a business. I mean, this is his personal money out of his checkbook, and what a hard time that was. And I said to him, we're going to figure this out. We are going to figure this out. I trust you. I'm not taking the money. Little did I know, fast forward 2 years later, the business starts to pick up. 4 of us turns to 8 of us or something, or maybe not even at the point. A few years later, I get two big meetings. I was running the merchant business, Circuit City and Nextel, which I don't think exists anymore. Oh, shoot. So anyways, those are my 2 big meetings. And I said to Shirley, can you come down with me? I'm going to take the train. It's a big deal. It's a big sales pitch. Can you help me? So we're on Amtrak, we're on the train, right, and I'm sitting next to Charlie, and I'm nervous, I'm preparing for these presentations. That's all I'm thinking about is how to get the $10,000 I think we were pitching, which was going to pay the rent for however long. And he just looked really nervous. He had some nervous energy about him. He was helping me, but he was kind of distracted. So finally, he has this envelope in his hand, and he's saying to me, Meghan, I just want you to know, back a few years ago as a young entrepreneur, as a young CEO, how much it meant to me. The day I offered you that check and you didn't take it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. He has the $1,000 check for me in this envelope. This is how nice that he remembered. And until he brought it up, I hadn't really remembered it. So he hands me the envelope, and I see the actual check, which this is not quite it, but this is the check. And I look at it, I'm like, that is so nice. He's giving me my $1,000, But underneath it, I'm shaking thinking about it. There was $10,000 in cash. $10,000 in cash. And I'm on the train, and I lived in 500 square feet. I had just gotten engaged. I had no money. This was I remember thinking, I think my most expensive pair of jeans at that time were like, $50 jeans. And so we get to like, I was like blown away. We get to the meetings and he was like, we have to go to the mall. You have to buy an expensive pair of jeans. Like I bought an expensive pair of jeans that day. It was like $100. Like buy it. And it was hard for me to actually spend $100 because $100 was a lot of money when I was 24 or something. Like it was like insane. And I remember being at the meeting. I could barely even think about the meeting. Who cares about the meeting? I can't wait to get home and tell my husband that like we could pay for our honeymoon now. Like, we can go on a honeymoon. And so it was like so amazing. I can't believe this happened to me. Like, what a fun story. But what I didn't know, and this is when he told me on the train, was that, Meghan, I don't think you realize, I offered you the $1,000, and the other person that came into the office, was the other junior person, came in, and his response was, is the check going to bounce? He's like, your response was, I trust you. We're going to make it work. His response was, is this check going to bounce? That was his response. I didn't know that, right? So in hindsight, like, wow, like that was the day. Like I just went from this junior employee to being an owner in the company, to being an entrepreneur. It took ownership for the company. So fast forward now to the hard work. So it's probably about a decade and more, and it's still happening now. Some of the fun stuff I went through from, I ran our merchant business for a long time, and it was more of an advertising business, selling $1 million contracts over my head, hiring senior people, board meetings monthly, firing people, hiring senior people. I interviewed, potentially was going to be my boss, like a handful of people. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I put in orange here this MasterCard partnership. I was just going to tell you a quick story on that, some of the hard work. And the point is, when you're in the hard work and you're doing it, it doesn't really feel good. So the story, so it was actually in 2009. It was only about 4 years ago. We started discussions of strategic partnership with MasterCard, like a very, very large, multi-million dollar, huge strategic partnership alliance with MasterCard. So Charlie invites me to go to an executive lunchroom discussion with MasterCard, because I'm the most senior person in the company. He's like, I'm going to bring you, right? I sit down, picture this executive lunchroom. It's myself, Charlie sitting across from me, like two top executives at MasterCard, one like background at McKinsey, one of the brightest guys I've ever met, and this head of like global strategy, like super senior people. And I'm thinking, I have no idea what the hell these people are talking about. I was so over my head. I'm sitting there thinking, I have no idea. That like awkward, like I'm just paralyzed. I'm saying nothing. And every minute that goes by, I'm thinking, if I don't say something, he's going to, it was just awful. It was like a complete train wreck. And so we leave, and we're walking to the car, because they're up in Purchase, Westchester. So we're walking to the car, and he looks at me, and he was like, what the hell happened? He's like, I am so embarrassed. He's like, I just invited, like I basically told him you're my most senior person, and you said nothing. Like, nothing. I said, like, when I say nothing came out of my mouth, nothing came out of my mouth. I was mortified. And I remember telling him, I like, this will never happen again. And the point is, like, throughout my career, it's like it never ends. Like these opportunities where you're putting yourself out of this comfort zone, and when you're in it, like that's when a lot of people give up. I think especially for entrepreneurs, when you're in it, and that's like everyday kind of things happening, a lot of people actually give up. And so recognizing how important this hard work was, I'm going to get back to towards the end of the presentation. Before I do that, I'm going to talk to you about true wealth. So I'm going to start with my son Matthew. So Matthew was born in December of 2009. He's my first son, and he was born premature. So I'm going to give you the kind of what happened, as a first-time mom, not expecting to have a premature baby. He was born 2 months early. It was a really tough time, just being in the hospital sort of 2 months early, but he was also born with a condition that I won't get too technical, but it's called microtia atresia, which means he was born without his left ear, and he has no ear canal, so he can't hear out of that side of his head. And so also with a condition that affected the entire left side of his face. So he's got paralysis in his eye, he's got a shortened jaw, so he's just got, a lot ahead of him. And he is healthy, but at the time, I knew nothing about this. I didn't know when he was in utero that he was going to have I knew nothing. It was probably one of the exciting to have a baby, but like probably the hardest time of my life. Like I didn't know what to do. And so I just went into like I was all consumed. He was born at 4 pounds. I was all consumed with him, and I spent months, hospitals, doctor appointments, just research, just obsessed actually with his condition. Thank God he's mild to moderate, and so we're lucky that he is healthy and he's thriving right now, but it was like one of the darkest sort of periods in my time, in my life. And in that window, my 3 months was sort of up, my maternity leave, and I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Like, I've got this, like, tiny little baby who's got these issues. How am I possibly going to leave him and go to work? And I came into the city. I was living in New Jersey at the time, and I came in and I had lunch with Charlie, and I said to him, like, how am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get back to work? Like, I'm a mess. I've got all these problems. I'm obsessed, and what am I going to do? And he said to me, I honestly will never forget this. I know exactly where I was, and he said to me, you know, Meghan, like, if you need the year, like, take the year. Like, I mean, he had tears in his eyes because I was crying, and it was an awful moment, but he took such a weight off of my shoulders. Like, the idea of not having to worry about work and the MasterCard partnership and the merchant business I was running, like, I remember thinking, I can't even think about those things. And he just took such a weight off of my shoulders to be able to not have to worry. And I realized, like, back in the check, the $1,000 check, how little that was for me, but how big that was for him. And in this window for me, like, how little it was for the company to offer me the time off that I needed, but, like, I don't think he realized even at the time, like, how much that meant to me. Okay, so this moment of realization, this is important. I used to live in Hoboken, New Jersey, when I had Matthew, so it's just right across the river from New York City. And I was walking with him, like, you know, as it started to get a little bit nicer, you know, in April, May. And I remember walking, and I would, you know, walk along the river. And there was something about, like, New York City was attracting me to it. Now, granted, I was stressed when I was at work. Like, the MasterCard day, like, I had a lot of those days, like, in series of, you know, like, almost every day at times. Physically sick over it. I mean, like, I had, like, almost every day something like that. And so, but I remember looking at the city and feeling like I'm missing something. Like, I'd look over, and our offices were near the Empire State Building, so I'd be like, oh, there's hustle and bustle, there's hard work going on, there's, like, you know, there's, like, stuff going on there, and I kind of feel like I'm missing it. And so I realized I don't feel like myself when I'm not at work. Like, I felt this, like, sort of connection and this pull to New York City to get back into work. And so I ended up coming back after 6 months, and the realization I had was that having Matthew made me realize how important work was for me. And this notion that if you look on sort of never pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, it's basically saying you're dying. Like, if you go every day living same old, same old, same old, versus if you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you're growing. Like, that's the definition. It's not like when you're not pushing yourself, you just stay flat. When you're not pushing yourself, you're going down. And so that's how I felt. I felt like I was dying. I remember feeling I was depressed. I was like, this is not me. I don't feel right. And I came back to work, and I started to feel more like myself. But a lot changed for me in my sort of perspective when I was really lucky and fortunate to meet with Jim Lear. So nice. Jim's actually on the phone to listen to this, so I realized how meaningful this meeting was for me. In September of 2010, so 9 months after I had Matthew, I met with Jim. Now, Jim runs the Human Performance Institute down in Florida. He's arguably one of the best performance coaches. He basically trains all the elite athletes out there, Andre Agassi, to, like, all the, you know, military, medicine, Fortune 500 CEOs in business, basically all the elite people out there in every category, he coaches them. He's amazing. And our CEO has a close relationship with him, and asked if he could meet with me for an hour, a few hours. I think I had a 4 or 5 hour session with Jim, which was like a rarity in his schedule. And I met with him one-on-one, and he asked me 3 questions. And this has, like, changed, like, my life in many ways. He said, Meghan, when are you your best self? And so I said, my best self. And so I clarified. I said, what do you mean by my best self? Do you mean when I'm on? And he was like, what do you mean by on? I said, like, when I'm on fire. He was like, yeah. When are you on fire, Meghan? Like, when are you on? When are you on fire? And I was like, when I'm at work. Like, in my head, I'm picturing myself in my office, working on something difficult, working with smart people, just when I'm at work. That's when I feel on. And it was weird because I remember reflecting on it thinking, I never thought I would actually say when I'm on is when I'm at my best self and my happiest is I'm at work. And so he said to me, okay. So then the realization I had was sort of like when you're on a plane, you know, they say actually take care of yourself before you take care of others. Like, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you help, like, a child especially. And this notion of first, you have to take care of yourself. Second, you take care of the kid next to you, because if you pass out because you don't have oxygen, you can't help your child. So number 1, take care of yourself. That's the priority. Number 2, actually take care of others. So then he said, okay, second question. This is, like, so morbid. And I remember thinking, I definitely had not thought about this question before, but he asked me, what do you want it to say on your tombstone? So this is my tombstone. This is a little scary. And I thought about it for a few seconds. He didn't give me, like, you know, hours. He just, what do you want it to say? And so I said this. I said, I wanted to say she was a great mother, she was a great wife, and she was a great leader. Those are the three things. And he was like, I love it. And he said, you know how difficult this is going to be? And I said, that's why I'm here. Like, I know. Like, this is going to be difficult. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do all three? And he said to me, well, how about this? How about if you're just a great mother and you're just a great wife? Is that okay? Is that good enough? Or how about great leader and great wife? Like, basically looking for, will you compromise? 2 out of 3. Is that good enough? And he kept pushing and pushing. And I was like, no, like, it's not okay. Like, I want to be a great mother, I want to be a great wife, and I want to be a great leader. And I need all three. This foundation of leader, like, I need it for me. And I want to be a great wife, and I want to be a great mother. Like, I'm not going to compromise. And I remember he was like, that is awesome. This is going to be so difficult. And he said, the next question, which led to, okay, so how is this going to fail? Like, how will this not work? Like, why will you give up? And I was like, in 2 seconds he gave me the answer. I was like, because I won't get home to give Matthew a bath. I remember thinking, it's not going to work, and I will quit. I will quit if I don't get home to give Matthew a bath and put him to bed. I will quit. Like, I just know myself. I love this little baby. I need to be there. I want to just eat him up. Like, I have to be home. And if I'm here every night working late, as I had been doing in my career, I'm like, I'm going to quit. It's going to break me. And so he looked at me and he was like, and you don't think Next Jump and Charlie is going to help you figure that out? He was like, have a conversation. He's like, if it's that little, like, that's little to get home and give your kid a bath. That's small. And so I did that. I came back, had a conversation, and the ritual we created was 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I went home at 7 o'clock, give Matthew a bath, and put him to bed. The other nights, I was here, unconstrained. I would work as late as I need to, get whatever I need to get done. But the point was, it wasn't an all-or-nothing solution. I was ready to quit, like, over not being able to be with my kid at night, like, put him to bed, as small as that. And I was worried that was going to break me. And so that like, was so profound. I did that for about 3 years. And then I had Brendan, my second son, about 1.5 years ago. And I was like, this is a lot harder with 2. Like, the challenge just doubled, and the bath is not enough. 2 nights is not enough. Now I have to split my time. I'm exhausted. He's still in my room. It's like 5 a.m. I'm thinking, this is going to break me. So I'm on maternity leave. And now I live right next door to the office, just proximity being easier for me to get home and see the kids. So I have lunch with Charlie during my maternity leave, and I said to him, how am I going to do? Like, literally, like, what am I going to do? Like, this is again, we're here again. Like, this is not going to work. And he's like, we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. We're going to figure it out. And I think he was stressed, too, and I was stressed, thinking, how are we going to do this? Like, and I remember one day we were walking, and I said, walking back, I was with Brendan walking him, and he said to me, we're going to make it work. And I said, the idea of part-time, like, this is after 15 years of working hard for him, and I'm thinking the idea of part-time is like just not, it's like out of the question. Technology industry, everybody works late, and I was like, is it possible? Like, could I work part-time? Like, is there a way to make something like that work? And he said to me, he was like, it's possible, but it would mean something. It would mean that we would have to make everybody else own everything in the company. Everybody would have to own revenue and culture. They would have to own, which means they would have to actually train to be leaders. Like, they would have to become entrepreneurs. They would have to learn how to lead. And so that's what we did. We actually turned the culture of our business and the training ground into leadership. And so the realization and the lesson I learned was that trust over time, it takes time, it's everything. 2 hours of your time is worth more than 40 hours of someone with poor judgment if they trust you. And it's not about hours at that point. So now I work Monday through Thursday, I take Fridays off, I take Matthew to school, I get to pick him up, see his teachers, and I do a few errands for myself. That's my day. I work out with Clea. That's my day. And then Monday through Thursday, I'm here at work, but I come in at 10 and I leave at 5:45 to let my nanny go. I work less hours, and I'm so much more productive, and I'm making more impact on the business than I did before. And that's the realization, like, it's not about hours. And so what we did is we turned the entire company into this training ground for leadership. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about actually all the execution of how we did that, but this is the result so far. And we're still figuring this out. But, 1.5 years ago is when we started this whole thing. After I had Brendan, and our revenue went from 25% year over year, like a 5-year sort of average CAGR of 25% growth, to 103% in the last year, because we changed the business and this leadership model and everybody becoming leaders and owners. And then the leadership award we just won is a Harvard Business School and a McKinsey leadership award that they give, and we won that this year for what we're doing in leadership. So my biggest takeaway, and this is sort of the final, the second to last slide, my biggest takeaway in kind of my whole journey becoming an entrepreneur is that I do this for myself. You know, I train harder. I take feedback a lot differently because I know how important this work is to me and the hard work and what it's done for me. I work hard to be my best self. And the reason I do it is so I can take care of others. Jim said something profound. One more ode to Jim. I'll leave you with is that he said, high achievers give up everything to be good at one thing. And this is in his experience. He said, but that's not true, right? He said they kill it at work, they kill it with their spouse, they kill it with their kids, they kill it in multiple areas. They have a balanced life. I'll leave you with that. Questions, reactions? Thank you.